Hey guys, welcome to another exciting episode of Secrets to Real Estate Investing. And I have a really kind of unusual guest or a pair of guests today. We've never talked about this topic before because it's not really fun or sexy as they admitted, but we're going to talk about the importance of tracking your numbers and bookkeeping today. And I met this couple at Justin Williams' recent event, Flip Hacking Live in San Diego. It was a great event. And Kirk and Joni are going to share with us what they do for real estate investors and why it's important to have good books and good numbers and tracking. So with that, welcome to the show, Kirk and Joni.
Hi, thank you for having us.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I mean, this is the kind of thing that is an afterthought for most investors. I mean, people don't go, I'm going to get into flipping houses and I'm going to figure out how to do bookkeeping for it. No, that's like the last thing. It's usually like, oh, I have to put this on a tax return. Oh, I better start gathering some receipts. Were those in the back of my pickup truck, or where was that Home Depot receipt? Oh, and then it's just such an afterthought for most flippers, unless they are former CPAs like myself. But, most people are not like that. So why don't you tell us your backgrounds and how you got into doing what you're doing, and we'll go from there.
Well, my background, of course, is in counseling psychology, so you would, naturally go into bookkeeping. But
of course,
I basically worked in the corporate world at the executive administrative level. I did some training, things like that, and then I started doing bookkeeping for a consulting firm for about 6 or 7 years. Took a few years off when our son was born. And when I came back to work, I decided I wanted to go back into bookkeeping and met a guy named Mike Simmons and his partner, Mike Cowper, business partner, Mike Cowper, and started doing their books. And, they're successful real estate investors, and it just kind of took off from there. They introduced us to this whole new world, and Kirk was, right in it with me from the beginning. And REI Books was born shortly after.
Awesome. Yeah, we had Mike Cowper just on the show a few episodes ago. He's great. So he's the one that said that you guys needed to come on too. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm excited for that. So Kirk, what's your background?
Similar, corporate America for a long time, automotive world, which is what brought me to Detroit in the first place. But then, midway through that early part of my career, I switched over and I did banking and mortgages for 12 years. And so when we really got into the real estate piece, I was pretty familiar with, especially the finance side of it. And then I took the jump, left the mortgage world, and to do this full time, and it's been a blessing ever since. It's been great.
Awesome. So the name of your company is REI Books, is that right?
REI Books, yes.
REI, and that stands for Real Estate Investing or Investor Books. So designed just for real estate investors. So why don't you start for those of our listeners that really don't know too much about bookkeeping? What's the difference between bookkeeping and accounting?
So I always like to think of bookkeeping as part of accounting. It's kind of the first part of it, and it literally is keeping the books. In the old days, it was written down in a big ledger in a big book, all of your ins and outs. Luckily, with computers, we don't have to do that anymore. But I definitely think that it's important. And so, the bookkeeping, we're going to keep an accurate record of your finances, a complete daily, weekly, monthly accounting of where the money comes in, where it goes out, and make sure it's in the proper categories. An accountant is going to come, of course, help you with your taxes, and your CPAs, depending on your relationship, probably going to do some more long-term financial strategies, tax strategies, things like that. So we work hand in hand with them, but we're sort of the boots on the ground, day-to-day part of it.
That's good. And what costs more typically, bookkeeping and bookkeepers, or accounting and accountants?
I would say probably CPAs cost more than bookkeepers. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So I just wanted to clarify that. So bookkeeping should be, a lower price point, and bookkeeping is something you need ongoing, ideally probably monthly or a minimum quarterly, whereas the accounting or the accountant can step in once a year tax planning and tax preparation and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and if we do our job, then it's going to make the CPA's job that much easier. And you won't have that headache where, oh my gosh, can I put this off? Can I get an extension? When do I have to meet with my accountant? We'll have you set. We'll have you ready for that meeting.
Yeah, and it can save you money on the preparation of your taxes too, if you don't hand them the proverbial shoebox of receipts.
Right.
They figure out what happened and what goes on the tax return. So I noticed in the download that you prepared for our listeners, which I'm very excited about, that you say it's important to reconcile your bank accounts. Can you talk about that a little bit, like why that's important?
Absolutely. Well, mistakes happen, and oftentimes banks will, you'll find duplicate transactions, or, even sometimes through the bookkeeping system, they'll just come through twice, or you're getting charged for something that maybe you didn't even realize you still had on set up on a credit card. So when you go through and reconcile your accounts, you can really double check and make sure that everything is 100% accurate. If there's something left out there straggling, you can look into it and find out what it is and take care of it. So yeah, it's very important to reconcile monthly and not try and do it all at the end of the year and have 12 months worth of reconciling.
Yeah, and I just have a quick comment on that too. I mean, it's important to do your bank accounts and your credit card accounts. I mean, my credit cards often have probably $30,000 to $40,000 a month going through them, as flippers often do, because you're buying a lot of materials. Well, I pay for the materials myself, and then I pay contractors for labor. Some people just pay the contractors for materials and labor, but I like to just pay for the materials. And my thinking behind that for you listeners is that I tell my contractors, it's not on you whether I pick the $2 or $3 foot tile. That's on me. So I'm just going to pay the materials no matter what they are. So I like that. And I give them a Home Depot credit card, and one contractor I trust has one of my Visa cards, and I'm checking everything. But just last week, I got a credit card statement, and I thought, oh, I should really look through all this and see what's going on in there. And I'm training someone new, so I was writing and coding, which I don't often do, because it's always the same as last month. And I found like 3 different monthly services that I shouldn't have been paying for still. One that I'd forgot to cancel, one that I did cancel, but it obviously didn't go through on the cancellation. So, I mean, nice for me. I got back like $600 from requesting refunds. But if you're not checking it, you just think, oh, just put all those statements in for the end of the year. Well, I'll be dealt with later. Then, it can really cost you a lot of money. That's where this part gets sexy. Who wants more money, right? Go out on a nice date with your partner, or go have a party or a nice vacation with all the money you're going to save. So tell us too about the importance of keeping personal and business money separate, and how do you do that?
Well, that's a huge thing, especially in this industry. And a lot of people start, on a shoestring, and it's the ideal scenario would be you would have completely separate personal and completely separate business, and they never meet each other. But life's not perfect, and that's not probably realistic, especially if somebody's beginning. So the best way is to, if you have to infuse your company with personal money, is to make a deposit from your personal account into your bank account, and then that's an owner contribution, and then of course it's business income. That's fine, but I think the real question comes down to, what if you have your personal credit card and some of those expenses are personal, some of those expenses are business? This goes back to my mantra of keep every single receipt, and when you have the expense, make a notation. There's a lot of electronic ways to do it with different software. We mentioned some of them in the download. But even if you just write on the back of it what it was for, what was the business expense, which property did it belong to, and then we come back to reconciling. You give that information to your bookkeeper, or you keep it aside for yourself, and then at the end of that statement cycle, you can go through and split out. This is personal, this is business. The last thing you want to do is have a bunch of business expenses on a personal credit card and then don't take advantage of the write-off. Don't put them into the system, and then you've just spent money that you're not getting any tax benefit for. So yeah, big on keeping personal and business separated. But if you can't, please track it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's so easy to do. I mean, I have this little wallet that opens up, and the top section is my personal credit cards, and the bottom section is my business credit cards. And yeah, even though I've got a lot more going on than the typical person, there's the rental company and the flipping company, and they have multiple credit cards. You can start with just one even personal type credit card. It doesn't have to be a business credit card. Just get another MasterCard or Visa or whatever, and you just put a sticker on. This is for all my business expenses. If you don't have an LLC or whatever, it's okay. Even open up a separate sole proprietor, just another bank account. I'd open another one that said Holly McCann, checking account, whatever. And just so it's so much easier to track, and it's better. It's a great habit to get into so that you don't get in danger of the piercing the corporate veil later when you start having an entity. And if you're just mixing everything together, a lawyer would just say, you don't have a business, everything's mixed together, therefore you're liable for all the bad stuff that happened that we're suing you for. So yeah, it's really important to keep it separate if you're new to this world, is because when you amass some wealth and some assets, you're going to be more of a target for lawsuits. So you've got to build that protection in, right?
Well, that's a great point. I mean, people look at you as a real estate investor, and you own property. They don't they don't know all the details. They just look at somebody who owns a couple of houses. Oh, they're a pretty good target. So that's a great point from the protect yourself standpoint.
Yeah, definitely. So what are some of the things that you've seen or uncovered that were pain points or regretful for some of the people that you've helped?
Well, we've taken over quite a few books for people who had very good, reputable bookkeeping companies doing their books, but they didn't know real estate. And so we got in there, and, you know, the settlement statement, they didn't know how to read a settlement statement. So the funds were completely put in wrong, and that's really bad. So it's so important to, you know, find a bookkeeper that knows real estate, and, you know, make sure that those settlement statements, all those transactions, all those transactions, there's so many, are getting put in properly, that they understand how real estate works.
I couldn't agree more. It's super important. And what Joni's talking about with the settlement statement is whenever you buy or sell a piece of property, you get a escrow statement, something called a HUD-1, and it's got a whole lot of lines on it usually. You know, everything from a property tax allocation, there's loan amounts and interest amounts getting paid off or on a new loan on you. And there's all kinds of things that are deductible. You just got to do it the right way and at the right time. And is it a write-off right away, or is it going into your cost basis? And you need someone that knows what they're doing. And Kirk and Joni obviously know what they're doing. So yeah, that's something that you can really mess up on.
I've even seen where I've even seen where people, they say you buy a house, and the bottom line, let's say it's $20,000. That's how much cash you brought to close after a loan and expenses and everything else. And that's in the books as the cost basis of that property, not the 80,000 or the 100,000 actually was, because there's a loan in there. And so, yeah, you're really messing yourself up if you don't read the settlement statements and have a bookkeeper who knows how to
break
do it.
everything out.
Yeah, or if you're doing it yourself, just, you know, break it out. It's not rocket science, but it is bookkeeping. It's pretty
well. I'd say, yeah, it's like a foreign language. It's easy if you speak the language, but if you don't, then you have no idea what to do. So definitely get some help. Right. And it's great to get a referral from someone that, you know, is a bookkeeper for real estate investors in particular, or just hire Kirk and Joni and don't take a chance, because I'll vouch for them. They know what they're talking about. I can tell.
Thank you.
So, Kirk, you were talking too about some of the value that you guys bring to the table is that you help investors kind of use their reports from a business standpoint, as opposed to just, you know, typically what an investor would do is, you know, give someone a bunch of statements, say, give that to the CPA and file a tax return, and then they may not even know what's going on. So what's something that, you know, you would help them understand, or some reports that would help them in their business?
Sure. I think mainly because of my corporate background and Joni's corporate background, you know, we've owned rental properties in the past. So we come at it from how does this help my business grow forward model as opposed to just taxes. Taxes are important, but you could also use bookkeeping, proper bookkeeping, to look at your numbers monthly. Are you making money? Are you losing money? We advocate with today's technology, you can keep track of your sales and expenses all the way down to the property level. So once that flip is done, you can go back and you have those numbers and review it. How did I do? I like the way that flip worked. I didn't like the way that flip worked. And now you have something you can benchmark against other properties. It helps you budget maybe for future projects. And just if you look at the books from that standpoint as a real business tool, this is where my money's coming from. This is where my money's going. Then I think you have that. And along those lines, also, a lot of our clients, both flip and wholesale, keeping track of them, keeping those things separate, then you can really, hey, you might like flipping, but maybe wholesaling's making you more money and you want to put some more effort there. But again, if you have the numbers, you can do all kinds of analysis. If you do your books on April 14th every year, you're probably not taking a lot of time to do the analysis.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and I've definitely noticed extra expenses in the utility category. Like when you've got a vacant house that you're flipping, you can be a target for theft of electricity and water. Ask me how I know. Yes. So depending, what area you're in, I mean, I've had people, plug in a big extension cord to my house and run it over the fence to them. And when your utility bills go up, like if I wasn't even opening them, whatever, the accountant deals with that stuff, I wouldn't know. But like all of a sudden, that's a bit high. Maybe we should go check out what's going on over there. So yeah, I mean, you got to use them as a management tool of how you can improve your business, right? And then you look at how much you make if you're a wholesaler and a flipper, how much money you're making based on the time that you invest. That's where you add, the human capital element. Like, okay, that wholesale deal took me 10 or 20 hours. That flip deal took me a couple hundred hours. What's my return on investment of time? So you can look at that when you have them all separated out. So is it important that you kind of address this, but do you have to separate all the expenses by property? And you're talking about writing properties on the back of receipts and stuff. I mean, what's that all about? Isn't it for taxes? It's all just income and expense?
Well, it's like Kirk was saying, it's another great way to see where you are on a property. For instance, we keep what's called a bottom line report for all our clients. So it's out there on a shared drive all the time. So they can go out and see exactly what they have into a property, what they bought it at, how many expenses they have, what the utilities have been. So if they get a deal, they know exactly what they need to get out of that deal. So yeah, I mean, keeping track by property is very important in this. Absolutely. And just go ahead.
Well, it also goes back to a point you were making earlier about capitalizing expenses. Excuse me. If you're keeping it separate, then when you go to your CPA and you're making those decisions, these expenses can be part of your cost basis. These can't. But if you keep it by property, then it's potential that can lower your tax consequences as well. So so we keep all the way down the property level for all of our clients, and we recommend you do the same.
Yeah, well said. So how important is it to keep receipts, and do you have to have a receipt to be able to include something in your books or write it off? Like what if I lost a receipt? Do I just lose a write-off, or how does that work?
Well, so the IRS will accept PDF versions of electronic copies of most receipts. So, and then I know that the rule is you don't have to keep a receipt for something less than $75, but if you're going to keep them all. That's my theory about it. But no, there's a lot of other ways to do it. So if you have a paper receipt, my recommendation is make it electronic, scan it into something. It can be a folder somewhere, a file folder, or if you're using a software program like QuickBooks, you can obviously scan it directly into that. But then you have it, because your paper receipt's going to fade. It's going to roll around the bottom of your truck, as you mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. It's going to blow away. It's going to end up wadded. So you don't have to worry as much if you lose that paper receipt. And then you can use other things like you mentioned, say Home Depot earlier. Take advantage of their Pro Extra account. they'll keep your receipts on their website, on their cloud. And so it's a great tool to go back if you ever have to look at one, but it's also there and it's in the cloud and you have it forever if you ever do need to, look back at that for an audit or for whatever reason. Yeah, I'm a big fan of keeping all receipts.
Do you guys recommend an app? Do you have any clients that use an app for receipts?
Many of them use the QuickBooks app because they can just, goes right into their books. They can make any notes if they want to, and then we go in and categorize it accordingly. Another app it's IFTTT, which comes through, we have a receipt email that our clients can use, and it just comes through as an email to us, and we can put it right into QuickBooks. So it's great. I know there's a lot out there.
There's a lot out there. That one Joni mentioned, it stands for if this then that. So you can, it's a very popular website for receipts. You can just take a picture, and if you take a picture of receipt, you can immediately send it to an email address or your bookkeeper or whoever's keeping that for you. Expensify is another one that I think a lot of people have used. And if you really just aren't going to do it, put them in a file folder, put them in an envelope or a box. You can use an app called Shoeboxed. You can send them that. They'll scan it, put it on a disk or send it to you electronically, and then you'll have it that way too. But take advantage of the technology that we have and put your receipts in the cloud.
That's awesome. I love it, an app called Shoebox, because that's what it is. Yes, that's awesome. So what other advice do you have for real estate investors when it relates to bookkeeping?
Do it.
Yeah. Don't go from your checkbook.
Yeah, that's probably you asked earlier. One of the more common things that we encounter immediately is people who just don't have the bookkeeping set up, and sometimes they're just early in their business and they haven't done it yet. Sometimes they've just gotten really good at Excel spreadsheets, and that's fine. But if that works for you, God love you. But have some kind of bookkeeping, some kind of way of keeping track of your system, and then keep up with it. If you're doing it yourself, daily, weekly. Too many times we talk to clients who just think, man, I want to use you, but I'm 6 months behind, or once a year I spend a week huddled up in my office away from my family going through. I mean, just use it. We talked earlier about how it can be a tool for your business. Just keep up on it. And if you can't do it yourself, it's mainly because of time in this industry. Hire somebody. You will make more money getting another deal than you will ever pay a bookkeeper.
Okay, say that sentence again. That's profound.
I say, you as a real estate investor, if you hire somebody, whether it's us or somebody else to do your bookkeeping, you will have time. And if you use that time to get another flip or another wholesale or another rental property, you will make much more money on that deal than you will ever pay a bookkeeper.
That is so well said. And when someone, if you think about it, like this person, you said, oh, I'm just going to lock myself away in my office for a week and do it all. Imagine, like, maybe you could get a deal with all that time. And would you make $5,000? Is it going to cost you $5,000 to hire a bookkeeper? No, it's not a good use of you as an investor's time to do this. So hire Kirk and Joni or someone else to be doing this, and don't be wasting your valuable time. Because the other thing is, we investors are not as efficient at it. We don't know what we're doing. So it takes us a lot longer than it takes someone like you, because we don't speak the language and know how to work it all and the software. So tell me, what is your favorite bookkeeping software? Do you guys do QuickBooks yourselves?
Yep, QuickBooks Online, which is great because, obviously we have clients all over the country. So it's just great. It's works well. It's very robust, works well for everything we need in real estate bookkeeping.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of QuickBooks. I'm on that myself too. And the beauty of the online is, I'm assuming the client can access it and look at reports, just like kind of like a Google Drive, right? Like we can both use it just like in Google. So
absolutely, they can get in there. We also, of course, with their permission, give access to their accountant. So the accountant can go in there as needed, which is another benefit because they don't have to wait until tax time to look at their client's books for the first time. So they have access right away and can get in there anytime.
Yeah. Well, this is great. I just want to like summarize that you investors, if you think you're saving money by not hiring a bookkeeper, not only is it like spending your time that would be way better suited to go get another deal, but it's going to save you frustration. It's just going to like make you happier. I mean, I get grumpy when I got to deal with wrapping up the books to deal with the accountant. So just think about like, it's such a small price to pay to free up your time and go get another deal. You've got to think of it like, this is going to let me go make another deal, will more than pay for itself. So guys, Kirk and Joni, why don't you tell people like generally how you work with people if they're interested in like taking that next step and learning about working with you, what it looks like on a weekly or monthly basis, approximate pricing, like all of that.
Yeah, sure. So the first step would be for us to get to know each other. You go to our website, reibooksonline.com. And there's a free consultation. You can pick a time that works for you. And we're just going to get on the phone and we're going to talk about your business, talk about your bookkeeping needs, and make sure that we're a fit. Once we agree that we are, the first part is just seems like a whole bunch of information, but it's not that bad. We'll walk you through it. We'll tell you exactly what you need to do. We do as much of that for our clients as we possibly can, as far as helping them set things up. But once we have access to their QuickBooks, if they already have one, or we set one up for them, or and have access to what little information we need from banking and credit card accounts, then we just jump in and we start going through it. And we're doing a lot of probably some back auditing, going back a few months, depending on your situation. And we always tell people, bear with us for about the first 60 days. We're going to ask you a ton of questions, but that's so that as we get to know you better and better, the questions become less and less. And we're big on communication and big on using technology to help our clients communicate with us in whatever manner they feel more comfortable with.
So then is it like a monthly thing where your clients email things to you monthly, or do they have ways to give you like download only access to their bank account so then they don't have to be as involved, or what does all that look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a little bit of both. And again, depends on how each client likes to work. But we have an automatic bank feed from your bank into your QuickBooks account. So we see the transactions on a daily basis. After a while, we get to know your business and we know what those go to, so we don't have to ask you as many questions. Because we work with so many investors, we pretty much know what all the marketing ones are, all the advertising ones, all the website ones, so we can use those, use our knowledge to make sure those get classified properly. And then when we do need to trade, I'll say paper, we'll walk you through the apps. You can email it to us. You can put it in a shared drive. You can use your own Dropbox and give us access to that. Again, we try to work around however each client likes to work. And then it is on a monthly basis. We charge a monthly flat fee, and that ranges depending on really your level of activity. So they start from $350 a month. That includes QuickBooks subscription, goes up from there, again, depending on how big of an investor you are at this point. And with that, you're going to get monthly P&Ls, monthly balance sheets. You'll get P&Ls every time you close a property. We can customize reports. A lot of our clients like to see things like how's their marketing expenditures. And so we'll put together custom reports with whatever our clients need. And we're really in their books daily, weekly. So we don't have to wait till the end of the month or something. We're working on it all the time.
Well, I love it. And that way they don't have to be in the books daily, weekly. They get their reports once in a while, and that's all they have to do. They don't have to think about it. I love that they can send receipts to you, send it, forget it, and then you give them back the end product. That's fantastic. So I sure hope you guys, you listeners, will take advantage and at least do the free consultation. How and where do they find that? What's the name of your website?
It is reibooksonline.com.
Right.
And there is a button on there that just says free consultation. They can go right in and set up a time to talk to us.
Awesome. And because you listeners heard them on my podcast, they're offering 50% off their first month if you use the code Holly. Real easy to remember there. And just for listeners, I'm really excited. They put together a wonderful 2-page bookkeeping tips for real estate investors. Really great information there. It's a great little primer, like way to get started and what's important and why it's important, and kind of some do's and don'ts. So you guys can get that by going to hardhatholly.com/80, because we're show number 80. And you can also get this download and our past downloads by texting to the number 38470. You're going to text hard hat, all one word, hard hat to the number 38470. And then we'll give you this download as well as our past ones. As you guys know, we have great downloads from our guests, really helpful, useful tips. So with that, thank you so much for coming on the show, Kirk and Joni. You provided so much good insight for the sometimes dreaded subject and topic of bookkeeping. But hey, you guys, if you're afraid of it, Kirk and Joni will take the pain out of it and make it easy. You can tell they're easy to talk to, non-judgmental. For those of you that don't know what you're doing, they're going to be kind and nice and help you get everything sorted out. So with that, thank you so much for being on the show, Kirk and Joni.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks for having us.
Hey there, thanks for watching the video. Make sure you like it and click subscribe to get notified of more videos. And you can go to hardhatholly.com for a free download on secrets to finding great deals.